One of the most enthusiastic gun collectors in the world today is the genial host of the famous Military Inn, Andy Palmer. Inside this historic and unique frontier-style structure, 10,000 weapons are on display for all to see. Visitors come to the Military Inn from near and far, and everyone who shows special interest in the guns can expect a hearty welcome from Andy. Even before entering, your attention is captured by the exterior of the inn. The entire structure was erected with bricks and timbers salvaged from the carpenter's shop and forge shop that were part of the old Detroit arsenal at Dearbornville, forerunner of the city of Dearborn. Some of the handmade bricks even bear the date 1835. Just as the materials used to build the Military Inn have their place in history, a look at the vast gun collection it houses cannot help but take you back to colorful times and places, make you feel you have met people famous and infamous. This is especially true if you are lucky enough to have Andy Palmer himself as your guide. Poor Andy is proud of his guns, and he welcomes the chance to retell in his colorful way the stories behind them. Once you've been shown around by Andy, you can't wait to come back with your friends so they too can see the guns and enjoy Andy's fascinating tales of fact and legend. The huge timbers from the Detroit arsenal that now give the interior of the Military Inn much of its lusty charm were hewn from the virgin forest around old Dearbornville in the 1830s. Some are 14 inches thick and up to 14 feet long. One beam forms the mantel of the huge garrison-style fireplace that is a feature of the tap room just beyond the foyer of the inn. It is here that visitors see the first displays in Andy Palmer's fabulous gun collection. The guns are on display in showcases all around the walls of the inn, and they tell the whole history of firearms, starting with the Chinese hand cannon of 1377, the matchlock pistol of about 1465, the German wheelock pistol of 1520, right on down to the U.S. military flintlock made in 1837, and later percussion pistols and modern-day firearms. They come from all over the world. This pair of 70 caliber Belgian flintlocks were once used by an army officer as his personal dueling weapons. They were made about 1780. One of the many treasures in Andy's collection is this Italian double-barrel flintlock blunderbuss of 75 caliber. It is a highly ornate weapon and is almost completely covered with intricate silver and gold inlays. Made around 1660 and once owned by high nobility, it was carried on a coach for protection. Andy's early long arms date back several centuries. Among them are a Bavarian Heinzfoot wheelock shoulder arm, and beneath it, a Chinese matchlock dated about 1500. The grenade thrower is anything but a new invention. This one, made about 1860, fired a flaming ball made of oil-soaked cloth wrapped around a knot of wood. It was used in boarding ships and firing into enemy camps or forts. And here's a Spanish blunderbuss similar to the ones the Pilgrims used when they came to America. Military flintlock and percussion muskets are displayed in this case, and many of them took part in the early history of the United States, from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War. The 69 caliber Harper's Ferry flintlock musket was one of the first guns issued to troops of the U.S. Army. And these are the famous Kentucky muzzle-loading rifles, more correctly known as Pennsylvania rifles because they were developed in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and were built chiefly by the gunsmiths of the Keystone State. These guns are superbly accurate. They won fame on the frontiers of America, feeding mouths, defending pioneer homes, and establishing the freedom of the colonies. Nowadays, they are used by the members of muzzle-loader clubs throughout the country in turkey shoots and target contests, like this one at Greenfield Village. These are the finest examples of Civil War guns in Andy's collection. They, too, are favorites of the muzzle-loader clubs. Watch the men shoot volley after volley, the spectators cannot help but think of Gettysburg and the other historic battles in the war between the states. Many of the guns in the Andy Palmer collection tell the early history of the American West. The Colt Patterson revolver is the rarest firearm in the Colt line. It is a 5-shot, 36 caliber percussion pistol made in 1836 and was the first of the Colt revolvers. The 28 caliber Baby Patterson was made 3 years later. This pair of guns is valued at $5,000. Colt weapons progressed through many percussion models, some manufactured for a while after the advent of cartridge pistols. As Andy will demonstrate, loading these old Colts wasn't as easy as the movie villains and sheriffs make it look today. Being a percussion gun, the original Colt Patterson had to be disassembled for the powder and balls to be inserted in the cylinder. With each Colt came an extra cylinder and a special device which carried powder and balls. By holding it against the cylinder, Andy inserts the correct powder charge in all 5 chambers at once. Then Andy holds the opposite end to the cylinder and twists it, dropping 5 round lead balls into place. It's a long, tedious process that could mean death in a battle with Indians or outlaws. The cylinder is put back on the gun, and then the barrel is put in place and held with a special pin. It is now ready for firing. An improvement over the original Colt Patterson was the massive 44 caliber Whitneyville Walker Dragoon pistol made by Colt to cavalry specifications. Later, cartridge revolvers came into use, and the gun that won the West was the 6-shot center-fire Colt Army Frontier model. A double-action revolver exactly like this one was used by Billy the Kid. The name Colt is almost synonymous with the Old West. A modern-day expert in handling the Colt is Joe Beaudry, a frequent visitor at the Military Inn. Joe has been known as the fastest gun alive, and here he's out to show Andy how he got that name. This is one of the Charter Oak model colts, which was produced during the Civil War for civilian use. A replica of a $10 gold piece is set in its oak handle. The gun is .36 caliber, and the silver work on the barrel and cylinder is magnificent. A single-shot derringer like this was used by John Wilkes Booth in the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. This unusual gun is a Confederate flare pistol used for signaling. People visiting Andy Palmer's Military Inn for the first time can hardly believe their eyes. And as they get refreshments or sandwiches at the Western-type bar, Andy is sure to tell the story of the gun that killed Jesse James. It's a .45 caliber nickel-plated Colt Peacemaker, once owned by Jesse and used by his cousin Bob Ford to kill him. 19 notches are cut into the ivory grip. Much research went into verifying the fact that this gun really killed Jesse James. Another great gun of the West is the .38 caliber Colt given to Annie Oakley by Buffalo Bill. The famous Indian scout and showman had Colt make it up special out of parts of guns from many periods. It carries an inscription on the back strap, and it is gold and silver plated and engraved with intricate designs. But Andy Palmer has many historic guns to show his guests. Here's the .41 caliber Hammond Bulldog that killed Big Nose Kate, Doc Holliday's girlfriend. And this is the .44 caliber Marlin rifle given to Annie Oakley by Pawnee Bill. In frontier days, a revolver was part of a man's costume. Cattlemen, sheep herders, construction workers, and even townfolk wore them. Prospectors up in the hills, alone except for the company of a sure-footed burro, felt safer when a gun was strapped to their belts. Military weapons are in evidence too. These Gatling guns are among the prize examples in Andy Palmer's collection of rapid-fire weapons that includes machine guns of almost every type. Over 10,000 fine guns make up this collection, but among the finest is a matched set of dueling pistols and all their accessories. Each piece is fitted into a special compartment in this velvet-lined wooden case. The most accurate target rifles ever made are the German Schutzen rifles, like this one Andy is holding, that was made around 1900 for Karl Salzer of Hanover. Mostly of small bore, they were often used in target matches inside taverns. Most were made just after the turn of the century and were the pride of their owners. This Belgian revolver can shoot 20 shots in one loading through 2 barrels. In contrast, only 4 bullets fit in the cylinder of the cloverleaf pistol. Firearm oddities owned by Andy Palmer border on the fantastic. This French cutlass pistol has a one-piece blade and barrel. The Belgian harmonica pistol fires 6 shots, 1 from each barrel. Scores of strange guns. This purse is innocent looking, isn't it? But wait till the trigger is unfolded at the bottom and the other side of the purse is opened to reveal the mechanism of a revolver. Bicycle riders of the 1870s were never without protection when they mounted this pistol right on the handlebars in place of a grip. One of the most intriguing of Andy's weapons is this knife and knuck revolver that can be used first as brass knuckles, then as a dagger, and with the flip of a wrist as a gun. It was very popular with Paris gangs. This may be the world's most valuable rifle, a 5-shot German Mauser carrying ornamentation that is not only unique from the standpoint of art, but from the fact that the inlay work on the metal parts was executed in platinum and gold. And this pistol, too, is extremely valuable. It's a standard .38 caliber Smith & Wesson, purchased in the 1920s and then dolled up by a New York jeweler in ivory, platinum, and gold. A diamond is embedded in the sight. It was owned by James Ward Packard, the motor car builder, and it never fails to interest Andy's guests. Just as guns were a part of the Old West and of the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and of all wars since the invention of gunpowder, guns have helped write the history of the world. And prominent among the thousands of collectors who have a deep regard for these historical weapons is Andy Palmer. Ever since he was a boy in Illinois, he has had a love for guns and history, a love that is shared by people like these costumed members of muzzle-loader clubs assembled for the annual nationwide meet. One day, Andy got a gun of his own, and from that time his collection has expanded into what it is today, 10,000 weapons. Andy Palmer's Military Inn is more than a pleasant place to visit. It is truly a museum of history as told by the guns that helped write it.